This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
The mystery of one of Pensacola's most famous landmarks, the Graffiti Bridge. Rachael, Pongetti, and Jamey Jones on this edition of Conversations. It is a Pensacola landmark, a constantly changing and evolving billboard, an expression of feelings and opinions, a showcase of talent and creativity. While that might sound a little overkill for a graffiti-laden bridge, the famous structure has taken on a life of its own. Photographer Rachael Pongetti and poet laureate Jamey Jones have come together to capture the essence and the mystery of the 17th Avenue Trestle or Graffiti Bridge in her book, Uncovering the Layers, the Pensacola Graffiti Bridge Project. Pongetti photographed the bridge daily for an entire year, documenting the ever-changing artwork. Pongetti's editor-in-chief for the project was Northwest Florida's poet laureate Jamey Jones. In addition to the photographs, Pongetti documented the experience with regular journal entries. The two bring plenty of creative firepower to the project. Pongetti is an award-winning photographer and has a master's degree from the prestigious Savannah College of Art and Design. In addition to her photography work, she's an educator teaching art and photography at Pensacola High School. Jamey Jones is an accomplished poet and author. His latest book is Blue Rain Morning. Jones has a master's in creative writing from Long Island University. Currently, he teaches English literature and poetry at Pensacola State College. We welcome Rachael Pongetti and Jamey Jones to Conversations. You guys got a lot of stuff going on.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
How did this project come about?
Well, a friend of mine suggested that I photograph the Graffiti Bridge, and I was really involved in another project. And then he mentioned it again, and when he said it changed every day, that's how I got interested, because I was going through a lot of personal, conflict in my life, and I wanted to be able to process change better. And when I heard that it changed every day, I'd been reading a lot on change so that I could accept it more in my life. So I decided to photograph it every day so that I could learn from it.
Jamey, how did you get involved in the project?
Gosh, well, I met Rachael, I believe it was 2014, and the first conversation we ever had, which was at a poetry reading actually, and she told me about it. And I was excited then. I thought it was a really worthy project. It's been, like many Pensacolians, it's been a significant place in my life, right. Landmark. And then once she got the Kickstarter going, I donated a little bit to that and sent her an email congratulating her and wishing her the best, and happened to say at the end, if I can help you in any other way, let me know.
Of course, I like
and
on that.
here we are, and then she said, well, actually I could use another set of eyes, someone to proofread the preface.
Right.
And I said, send it on.
And that's all I asked for. It was just the preface. I kept it really simple.
Yeah. But, I kind of tore it up. I mean, that's what I do for a living. I kind of said, well, maybe change this and this and this. And it was not, we had to go back and forth with that, just the preface several times. Right. And there's other prose and other writing in there too. And so once I did that, I proofread the introduction and the essays, and that's it. Yeah.
But you were telling me off camera, though, you were saying that he really brought something extra to the journal entries, because the book doesn't just have photographs; it has journal entries of what the process was like. Tell me more about that.
Right, I knew what I was doing needed to be. I knew I needed to keep track of it. My intention was not for them to be public. It was just something that I would, after I photographed, would put in my journal. I'd come and write what had happened, and then, I'd go about what I needed to do. What Jamey did is he ended up taking the journal entries that I had already typed up and consolidated, and they'd already been edited. And he came along and said, let me see your actual journal. And he started looking through the actual journal and really broke them down into smaller journal entries and things that I wouldn't have thought would be interesting. He's like, no, let's put this in there. This is showing, things through an artist's eye. So
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm a big fan of reading journals of people I'm interested in, artists, poets, writers. They're quite imperfect. They're flawed. They're mundane. And you know, if you're interested in somebody, that's really interesting stuff. But with Rachael, what this does, and she was self-conscious about it, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, why would anybody be interested in her journal and it being kind of self-indulgent, which it can be. Journals can be that. But I said, you know, these are just going to add to the book, what they are. And what it does is you really get a sense of the fact that there's a personality behind the camera. You get a sense of her spirit and in the mind of an artist. I mean, she's doubting herself throughout. She's doubting what she should photograph and what she should allow in the book and out of the book, and how she becomes obsessed with the little line of paint here and there. And so while the book is about many things, it's certainly about being an artist, I think.
What was it like for you every day as you would go take those photographs?
You know, I never got tired being there. I think that's what really surprised me, because it really was more of a personal journey of me just going through this process of just letting go of attachments and watching things change. And I would get, you know, excited about something that would be on the bridge, and maybe the lighting would not be great, and so I wouldn't get the best pictures. I'd just have to let that go, and then I'd go back the next day to be gone. And you know, so I just constantly had to learn how to let go and just let things be as they were supposed to be. And that was a really great process for me to have to go through at the time. And it was a really special place because I just started learning. I was so in tune with that bridge. I could tell if one little thing changed on it. And then I got to meet, and you'll see that in the journal entries, there are people that I met maybe in March, and then later I would meet them again 6 months later. And the graffiti writers, I start to get to know them a little bit throughout the story. So it's a narrative. The journal entries are a narrative as well as insight into what I also was going through. It tells about the people.
Yeah. Tell me about some of those people you met.
Oh, well, I mean, I met a lot of I think what was really difficult for me was getting to meet some of the transient people, seeing some of the things they were going through. And I was involved when there was a stabbing down there, and that was really hard for me to experience, especially after they would come up to me often and say hello to me, and they got to know me. Sometimes I would go down there, there would be nobody, just me. So that was difficult. And then I got to know the graffiti writers. I just got to where I could spot who was doing it and who wasn't. And slowly they started to trust me and realize that I wasn't going to put them in a compromising position or anything like that. And then I would meet people that were getting married and people that were getting engaged. And what's been so interesting, what's so great about the title, Uncovering the Layers, is that the layers are still being uncovered. There are people that I photographed and they were meaningful to me, their tag, but I didn't meet them until 3 or 4 years later. Or I'm now meeting some of the children that had died and their friends had tagged the bridge, and now I'm meeting the relatives that are buying the books. And it the story just keeps evolving, and it's become really touching for me to be involved with that whole process.
Talk about the history of that trestle.
Wow. Well, I mean, everybody, of course, has their personal histories with it, any of us who live here. But, you know, when I came on board with editing the book, helping Rachael with it, she had a partial timeline. And I think you had maybe 1888 or something when the tracks were laid down,
Right.
and then a few things here between there and like the 1950s, 1960s, but we wanted it to be more complete. It just wasn't enough there, so we did a lot of research. Mainly Rachael.
Well, let's be honest. He's basically like, you need to do more work. He's being very polite. He's like, this is not good enough. Yeah. He's like, you're going to have to add more to this or take it out, and whatever you decide is fine. Yeah. But everybody that I had taught, I knew that timeline had to be in there because I had been hearing the same questions over and over and over again about the history of the bridge. So I was like, it's got to be in there. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, finding those facts was really tough. I mean, we became historians in this process. I wouldn't say I don't have degrees in history by any means, but we had to really search. We had to look through old books of Pensacola photographs and aerial photographs, drawings. Do we see the trestle here? When did it get built? A lot of people seem to think it was built in the 20s. We kept hearing that. So just by trial and error, we would find photographs, say I found one from 1917 or 1916 or something of the 3 Mile Bridge, but a bunch of city officials were standing at the base of the bridge looking toward Pensacola. And this was like in the 19-teens somewhere. And I could see the trestle then. And I said, well, it was definitely around then.
Right.
So little clues like that. But there's no, until this book, there is no history done on this bridge. So it's really a rare thing. At that point, Rachael just, really started going to the UWF Historic Trust archives, and they were so helpful. Man, they were helpful. And you just spent so much time down there going through the microfilm, right?
Right. And what I found out, interestingly enough, through them is that it was called a viaduct, not a trestle.
That's right.
And I was looking up any research that I was doing. I was looking up Graffiti Bridge, but then that would only take me back so far. And then 17th Avenue Trestle. I even went to the Railroad Museum and
In Milton, yeah.
right. And so what ended up happening is I found out it was called a viaduct. And once it was called a viaduct, then I was able to find a couple of newspaper articles that lended itself to finding information out. And I didn't even pick up on this until after the book was even out, and I was talking to somebody about it. But Mays was the editor of, and I think he owned the Pensacola Journal, which was before the Pensacola News Journal.
Right.
And he was very suspicious of the railroads at that time, and he was also a visionary. And the graduate student was actually researching Mays, and that's how she found out about this and helped me along along the path. But he ended up thinking that, cars should go all the way to Chicago and the cars should have access to the city. So he encouraged the citizens to put pressure on the railroad companies to build the trestle so the traffic could go underneath. And the article that I found in the newspaper, in the microfilm, said, "Congratulations, Pensacolians, you did it. We now are going to have this viaduct built." So the community is what got that trestle built.
Right.
And it's still such a community bridge. And I was sort of just nonchalantly talking about that. I was like, that's really amazing,
And he had a problem. Mays had a problem with, the railroad being right there on the water. Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a visionary, right? And so it was so people would have access to the water. And so that's how that came to be, And
When did it become a place for people to go and express themselves artistically and otherwise?
I'm so upset that I did not write this down. I met one woman in Gulf Breeze. If she could just let me know who she was. She rode the bus to school every day because they didn't have schools in Gulf Breeze, and they would go under the Graffiti Bridge. And she said she remembers the first tag. And she said because it was scandalous on our way to school, we were oohing and ahhing that somebody had written on that. And the best that I could come up with, it was around 1950.
Around 1950.
And we have photographs in the book from the 70s. And so we know there was a little bit of painting on there at that point. Yeah.
I want to show a few photographs, and I want you to sort of talk about them. We'll put them up, and this is the 17th Avenue Graffiti Bridge that we're going to be showing. Now this one here,
yes.
Talk about this. Now this happened after you finished your 1 year.
That's right. I've continued to photograph the bridge now, the whole time. I haven't stopped. And this was one of the last photographs that I made, and this was Captain Cuss, one of the Blue Angels, who died while he was flying. And one of the artists, again, I've got to know a lot of the artists, Chaz and his team came out to paint this. I love the little flags. I was there when a couple of people came and placed those in the corner of the photograph. And I just thought it was really special that the community embraced the Blue Angels so much and embraced the grieving process that they were going through. And that we have that ability as a community to use the bridge for that.
Okay, let's take a look at a couple more.
This was actually one of my students, and this is how it continues to uncover. Is I didn't know that this was a student of mine until the book came out, and then he sent a photograph of him holding the book that he had done this. This is an inspired Banksy stencil, and his tag name, my student, is Ghost. And so Banksy is a famous international graffiti stencil artist. And so it's a little bit of controversy there with the weapons and the children. And he often uses a strong black stencil with a white background.
Okay. And
this is a self-portrait of me in front of the bridge. And at that time, I was really, when you're there a lot, you end up experimenting and just seeing what your camera will do. So this was a time when I had the camera on the tripod and cars were racing underneath. There is a median in the middle, so I was not standing in the road per se, and the cars were just speeding through, and I went and stood in front of the camera. And I just like the ghostly image that's in it, and the merging of the traffic with the bridge with me in there.
very interesting. You told me off camera that even since you finished your project, that the level of creativity and artwork has actually gone up. Why is that?
I can't say for sure, but I do believe that social media has a lot to do with it, because people know that even if they spend hours and hours and hours painting something on the bridge, and a lot of times organizations will go out there and paint the entire thing for a cause, they know that it's going to be extended in its life through social media and photography. And so it continues to tell its story even though it gets painted over.
Interesting. Now you're working on another book as well?
I am working on another book, and it is about the layers, and I'm continuing to explore that. I mean, I think the whole project for me was really about understanding life and just understanding how to process that, and to process grief, and to process, you know, things when they go well and things when they don't go so well. And so this is a continuation of understanding about light and shadow. And then sometimes when you just shift your perspective a little bit to the left or to the right, then things change. The light changes, the shadows change. And there really are no shadows if there isn't light. And so that's what these photographs are about. But they're still very layered.
Jamey, you are the Northwest Florida Poet Laureate.
Right.
For someone who doesn't know, what does that mean?
Well, the position of Poet Laureate, goes back to antiquity. And, we have a U.S. Poet Laureate. And then in the last, decade, maybe 15 years, it's become very common for people, cities and municipalities, to have their own Poet Laureate. And what that is, basically, the idea is to have an official poet that represents a region in some way. Originally, politicians would call on them, and they would be at political events when somebody won some award, or when somebody died, or if they got married, they would write occasion poems to honor an event. And so, it's that position. And the West Florida Literary Federation chooses a Poet Laureate here in Pensacola in Northwest Florida for every 3 years. So I think I have about 8 months left on my tenure. Yeah.
How long have you been writing poetry?
About 30 years, probably. Yeah. Seems weird to say that, but yeah.
Did you write poetry in high school?
No, not really. I skateboarded from the time I was like 6, and I still longboard occasionally, but skateboarding was my poetry, up until about 17, 18. No, I really despised school and wasn't much of a reader or writer. It kind of shifted and changed very quickly for me, and around that age, that's when I started writing.
What makes a great poet?
Oh gosh. Well, a sense of recognizing the musicality of language, first of all, and the pliancy of language. The sounds and its symbols that have meaning, and then also just much like a photographer, I think, being able to see things and to observe things outside your normal daily routine, I suppose, They might call that attention deficit disorder, but actually, it's maybe every poet has ADD. Perhaps. Which is a gift in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What makes a great photographer?
What made me what now?
A great photographer. What makes a great photographer?
What makes me love?
No, I said what makes a great photographer.
Oh, what makes it? Oh, geez. What makes a great photographer? The definition of photography means to draw with light. And I think that being able to observe the subtleties of light, being able to observe the subtleties of just the shifting of when, maybe the light travels through the room and things like that, getting quiet enough in your own mind to be able to observe things like that. And I feel like to be mindful of what you're photographing, and to be mindful that it's not necessarily an object, that you are trying to, honor what's in front of you.
Both of you teach your respective disciplines.
Yes.
So what do you most want to convey to your students? And I'll begin with you, Rachael, and then Jamey.
Oh. I want them to value what they're doing while they're doing it. And so many times they're wanting to be on their cell phones, or they're wanting to be somewhere else or do something else. And it's like, you really have a great opportunity here to be able to learn how to have a voice and how to make a difference, especially with teenagers. They want to have something to say.
Right.
And they can do that through photography. They can do that through their photographs. So that's what I want them to understand, and to be able to take what's inside of them and to be able to convey that through the photograph.
Photography and poetry are so much alike. When you were describing photography, I mean, we've had this discussion many times, and I think what I want my students to know is very similar, and to quote the writer Jack Kerouac, he said that no shame in the dignity of your own experience. And I'm always telling my students, whether it's in English Comp 1 or poetry, that, you have something to say. You may think your life is boring and mundane. Well, guess what? So is mine. and there's a dignity to that. There's a way that you see the world. There's a way that you see the world, the way I see the world. And it's worth talking about. And to try to give them a sense of language that, you're not just locked into a 5-paragraph essay that has to have a thesis statement. In poetry, you can shift the language and do things quite differently to arrive at a different kind of sense, and maybe to learn that you know more than you think you know. So.
We have about 2 minutes left, and we're going to do something special here at the end of the program. You wrote a poem for the book.
I did.
So tell me just a little bit about that. And what we're going to do special here is, as we close, we're going to have Jamey read the poem, and we're also going to overlay some photographs that Rachael has taken from the bridge. So that should be interesting. So tell me a little bit about the poem.
Well, Rachael asked for the poem early on, and I didn't write it until later in the process. But I've written several poems actually about the bridge, but I wanted to write a new one, for this project. And so I took notes. I looked at a lot of her photographs, and then I just went down there and spent some time by myself and made notes and wrote, and then worked on it. That's it, and had some friends help me kind of proofread it. Yeah, so
we're going to have a poetry reading here and lay some of the pictures over it in just a couple of moments. The name of the book is Uncovering the Layers, and if someone wants to get a copy, how do they do so?
Right now they can get it from our website, which is Pensacola GraffitiBridgeProject.com. They can also get it at local retailers, Open Books, Marty Campbell Gallery on Palafox, and then also at East Hill Market. Awesome, great. Okay, well, are you ready?
I am.
All right, well, I'm going to close out the program here, and I'm going to let you do your thing. It should be interesting, very interesting. The name of the book, Uncovering the Layers, and it's about the Graffiti Bridge or the 17th Avenue Trestle, however you would like to label it. So make sure you take a look at it. It's very, very fascinating. By the way, you can find more of our conversations online at WSRE.org/conversations, as well as on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Take wonderful care of yourself. We'll see you soon. And now here's Jamey with his poem, and some beautiful pictures by Rachael.
Transient glances. Blasting sunshine on the tracks, we walk rail to rail, balancing circles with blue sky. Language of the trestle tagged in continual conversation, back and forth across generations. Train angles shift as shadows on the beach. We've become shadows on the beach. Bayou to bay, shadow to sand, sand to sky. Two rails in the sun sing. Latent voices of broken poems zip about, extend and bounce off moving graffiti boxcars and passing traffic. Absorb into oily wood, steel, concrete, and stones. Foolproof, foul-mouthed, home. This viaduct mind never stops. Comical, schizoid, over-the-top political. Juvenile banter and anecdotal phrases peep through crusted white, splattered red, purple, and green. Defaced love songs, dirges, and confessions. Weathering expressions of a passing world. Chaotic, comforting, dignified. White handprints trailing upward, marks of mourning mothers, God-fearing believers, taggers, artists, and angst-ridden teens. High school reunions, timely proposals, collective causes, Confederate hashtags and racial epithets, sexual vulgarities, hilarities, anarchist ranting, anti-government peep shows, anonymous, occupy, try and try again, this cultural blur, ever-changing babble, intoxicating, offensive, in your face. The dead are never far ahead, but often heard in the cracked colors of dreams, memories, and wishes, bearing the weight of locomotives. Pensacola ghosts, Spanish encampments, and meteor showers grace the space of this multi-layered wailing wall nestled against the bay. Memorials, transient glances, and creosote winds bend before this passage. Gold drips yellow, bright baby blue, silver splattered lines on an orange surface connect thought to form, earth to air, discarded spray cans and painted rocks scattered in the dirt like constellations. Stick figure runs with a blue heart below one knee. This energy passes in streams, whispers, screams in drive-by quotidian shifts. We are all inhabitants of Hobo Island, homeless voices speaking in tongues of color. These are the layers of our mutual glossolalia. Silent rails ping and salient starlight, headlight, sun-moon dimensions, edge of the city, vortex humming, vibratory passage, viaduct, trestle, graffiti bridge. Ballast blasts of iridescence lend themselves to song, single canvas calling to connect, communicate, collaborate as people of a place, perpetually beginning, feral voice of the city illuminated within the layers.
Support for this program is provided in part by Gulf Power, a Southern company, and by viewers like you. Thank you.